Welcome to MarcusG.tv. I'm Chef Marcus Giuliano, and I'm a chef on a mission. Today's mission is food fraud. Happens all the time and pisses me off to no end. Jamie, where'd we just go?
We were just in Nyack.
We're just in Nyack, New York for the day, walking around, meeting somebody, checking out the scene down there. A lot of great restaurants in Nyack. Nightlife in Nyack, a lot of bars. And we heard of some very nice restaurants. There was a wine bar that's been open a couple of years that we stopped by, a sushi place that we stopped into. And here's, it's just so disappointing, Jamie, that these chefs are doing this. In the one sushi place we went to, on the menu it said, salmon. The scallop roll, Jamie, was called diver scallop, right? Diver scallop roll. Diver scallops weren't in season the day we were there. It was impossible to even get them. So another thing is just that they're using those buzzwords to title something and sell it, and the average consumer just wouldn't ask. Now at the wine bar, that wine bar that's been there a couple of years, he had grass-fed beef on his menu, Jamie. We looked in the window, yeah. Grass-fed steak and wild salmon. So I'm like, oh boy, two flags went up. So we got back and we called him the next day, and I said, I wanted to know about your menu and this and that, and I heard you had wild salmon on your menu, and he said, yes, I do. I asked him where he got it from. The manager, Jamie, told me this. The manager was very quick. He didn't even go ask anybody. He was very quick to say, oh, we have it, it's wild salmon. I said, well, where's it from? Wild salmon's out of season. The manager says to me, out of season means that there's smaller fish right now. And I said, no. Out of season means that they're not in season. You can't get them. He goes, no. It means that the fish are smaller. When they're in season, they're bigger, right? Yeah. Totally had no idea what he was talking about. But was very quick to say that, by the way. And the average consumer would have been like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, this guy knows he's in the restaurant industry, right? I asked him about his beef. He didn't know. He goes, you're going to have to call back tomorrow, speak to the owner, who's the chef. So I called back the next day, spoke to the manager again real quick. He got me through the owner. I asked him about the salmon. He goes, I get my wild salmon from 3 places, Alaska, New Zealand, and Scotland. And I said, well, Alaska's out of season. He goes, I know that. And I said, New Zealand doesn't have wild salmon, and Scotland does have very, 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 very small runs. They're very small commercial runs, if that, and they're going to cost $30 a pound when they come into the U.S. whole fish. I know you're not buying that. And he goes, well, what do you mean? Like I was met with resistance, wasn't I, Jamie? You sure were. I was met with resistance because I was explaining to him, and I said, listen. He goes, well, what are you? I said, I'm in the seafood advocacy business. I know what I'm talking about with this. And then I said, how about your beef, grass-fed beef? He goes, oh, it comes from Harris Ranch. Harris Ranch, no, it's not Harris Ranch. It's Harris Feedlot. They call it a ranch, but it's Harris Feedlot. I looked it up on the website. I said, okay, thank you for the information. Thanks very much. Goodbye, right? So he actually called because I had called him back, because I went and did research on Harris. And it's basically a feedlot. They get cattle at 12 months old and feed them on grain. And he calls us grass-fed, feed them on grain, and process them. They're grain-fed beef. So I looked it up. I even called Harris to make sure they didn't have a grass-fed program, because sometimes these ranches, feedlots, brands, because it's a brand of beef. They're not really a farm. It's a brand of beef. They buy beef from certain farmers. They might contract with them, bring it to their feedlot, and finish them. So this is just like making a car, Jamie. Like in a Chevy factory, they don't make all the parts. They just assemble the parts, right? They get the parts from everywhere in the world, bring them into their factory and assemble them. It's like that with beef. They don't grow the beef there. They don't raise the beef. They don't birth the beef. They just buy the beef in from maybe a trusted source, maybe from the open market, maybe from an auction, and bring them in and then say, okay, we're going to feed them our rationing and only keep the beef alive for 6 months when the animal's maybe 18 months or 22 months old, but they've only had it for 6 months because they're just buying it in and saying, these are our standards. So the lady was like, no, we don't have grass-fed beef. Went over it with this all grain-fed. I'm sorry for the confusion. I said, no problem. I called them back because I said, you know what? I just did some research on Harris beef. I'm on their website. I spoke to them. They're not grass-fed. They don't claim to be grass-fed. And if you look on their website, it specifically says they're in consolidated feedlots. They go to a feedlot when they eat grain. And I said, And I explained to the guy, I was nice to him. I said, you know what? I would suggest removing the word grass-fed and the word wild off of your menu so it doesn't confuse consumers. And right away he was like, well, who is this? You know, you're making me nervous. You're making me feel very uncomfortable. And like, really, like, I said, listen, I'm not raising my voice. I'm having a nice conversation with you. I know this industry and I know food labeling, and I'm just suggesting that you to not have a problem, because honestly, if I were to come to your restaurant and find out later that I ordered the wild salmon that wasn't wild, I would be very upset. Most guests would actually go online and post a bad review. I said, so I'm just being nice and I'm telling you, and I'm suggesting, I said, you don't have to do it, but this could save you a lot of trouble down the road because you are mislabeling. There are laws for economic value. There are laws for truth in menu representation. So you actually could get in a lot of trouble in certain states. In Florida, it's a $5,000 fine for mislabeling fish, okay? So I'm not being mean. I'm having a great, nice conversation with you, and I'm telling you based upon that I'm an expert on food fraud menu labeling. I'm just suggesting that you remove these, you know, just to be fair. And he kind of came around in the conversation. He was like, okay, you know, this and that. I don't know if he's going to do it. I mean, it's a nice wine bar in Nyack. I mean, I don't know when I'm going to be back in Nyack. But hopefully, you know, these chefs need to be called out on this stuff. They can't just throw stuff on their menu and expect consumers to fall for it. So if you know a restaurant that Youth has wild salmon right now in December, January, February, in the off season, even into March, April too, or they have grass-fed beef, I will call and ask the questions. I will find out who they're buying it from. I'll call who they're buying it from and do the research and find out. And kindly call these people and just suggest, hey, you can't be doing this. This isn't right. You need to properly represent your label, your menu, and where it's from. So, I mean, there's a ton of people that agree with me on this. Consumers thank me all the time. So if you know a restaurant, just shoot me an email, marcus@marcusg.tv. Shoot me an email, marcus@marcusg.tv. You go to any of my websites and you can find tons of emails for me everywhere. Or tweet me at healthychefdude. That's on Twitter, at healthychefdude on Twitter. Tweet me and I'll be happy to do the research and uncover if somebody is doing something right and report both ways. That if somebody is doing something right, but the chances are, as soon as I see wild and as soon as I see grass-fed, chances are 75% of the time these guys aren't doing it right. And it's a shame. It's a downright shame. And you don't have to put up with it. Nobody has to put up with it. So thanks for watching this video.